first, back to Capitol Hill. Day 2 of testimony and more of the same from Alejandro Mayorkas.
Not a single Democrat came to the hearing that we had in McAllen, Texas, and Chief Ortiz said that the border is not secure. Do you disagree with Chief Ortiz?
Congressman, let me return to what you said. Accountability is brought in a court of law.
Mr. Mayorkas,
I delivered accountability for 12 years.
Mr. Mayorkas, do you disagree with the head Border Patrol agent when he said that our border is not secure?
Congressman, I have testified to that issue.
So you do disagree with him? You disagree with your chief of Border Patrol?
I respectfully do in that regard,
You
Congressman.
do.
Whew, boy, it just goes on and on and on. For more on this, let's welcome in Principal Deputy Press Secretary at the White House during the Trump years, Hogan Gidley, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member and radio host Christopher Arps. Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Good morning.
Chris, what'd you call it? Friday, mini Friday?
Mini Friday, pre-Friday,
like pre-game.
Pre-Friday.
Like pre-gaming.
Allison, pre-gaming. What's that? I don't know.
You know.
Good to see you both. Hogan, so here's the deal. We were talking about this before the show this morning. These hearings happen. Republicans promised they were going to hold hearings on a number of topics. They've done so, okay? But what happens next? My question when it comes to Alejandro Mayorkas, besides this being really embarrassing for him, especially, think about it, he goes to a cocktail party and pre-games at a Georgetown garden party or something. This is really embarrassing stuff. But does anything happen? Do Republicans take action, and even if it's just symbolic, move forward to get this guy out of office and impeach him?
I mean, I guess they can, like you just mentioned. I don't know that it really actually does much. They can't really remove him from office. I do think the embarrassment is a big deal, but it doesn't really do anything to secure the border. And I think that's where most Republicans are coming from here, is that they want policies that protect the American people. You're seeing fentanyl come over in record numbers, killing citizens. You're seeing record numbers of human trafficking and child smuggling. We know the stats with millions of people coming into this country illegally and unlawfully. Mayorkas didn't do anything about it. It's not because of their stupidity and ignorance, although I would argue they are stupid and ignorant. It's by design. This is what they want the country to look like. They don't want us to have a country along the southern border. They want the free-for-all. And regardless of what Republicans try to do, and regardless of what Republicans expose as fact, Mayorkas and Joe Biden want this country fundamentally eroded from within by allowing people into this country that don't have a right to be here.
Yeah, Chris, he's the Secretary of Homeland Security, so he should know everything that's going on. We've got nearly 1.4 million gotaways. That's people that we know got away. I mean, we have known terrorists who have tried to come into this country. Why does he continue to say that this border is secure?
Well, he's following the company line, and that's what the Biden administration wants to tell us, that the border is secure. They know that an unsecure border is an Achilles heel for them. The polls show that Americans want the border secure. You know, I've said on my radio show that I think Mayorkas has blood on his hands for allowing these folks to come into our country, for fentanyl to become the leading cause of death for young Americans. He's not necessarily going to be impeached or removed from office, but I think Republicans will be able to make him the poster child for the Biden administration's terrible actions on the border for the 2024 elections.
Yeah, and by the way, Title 42 going to be rolled back next month. We're hearing reports of anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 Chinese nationals on the Mexican side of the border waiting to come into the U.S., and then 40,000 migrants are waiting right along the border, not far from El Paso, Texas, waiting to come across the border as soon as Title 42 is rolled back in May. We'll have Mark Morgan on for more on that a little bit later this morning. But take a listen to this exchange, Hogan. This is Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene with, I would just say, some very pointed comments for Congressman Eric Swalwell.
That was quite entertaining from someone that had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy, and everyone knows it. But
I move to take her words down. Completely inappropriate.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Georgia and asks if she would like to retract those words.
No, I will not.
Hogan, what'd you make of that? Swalwell actually stood up, which I thought was interesting when Marjorie Taylor Greene made those comments, but she didn't take back what she said.
No, she didn't. I watched this whole exchange online after the fact when I started getting alerts about it all over my phone. I would point out, though, I do find it interesting. This is often the case with the left. Whenever someone notices a thing or points something out as being wrong, it's the messenger that gets shot. And in this particular instance, you can disagree or agree with MTG's performance here in the House committee. But what we're talking about here substantively is that someone who had access to classified information was engaged in a personal relationship with a Chinese spy. That's a fact. And the left will never address what Marjorie Taylor Greene brought up. Instead, they would just focus on Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
There are significant problems in that instance with Eric Swalwell, not to mention Dianne Feinstein, whose driver was with the Chinese party for a long time. All types of things like this occur. We notice it, but we're in trouble for noticing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what she actually called out in this instance.
Yeah, 2 points. One is, CNN, MSNBC, their websites are both referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene as far-right Georgia Congresswoman. Far-right. They always say that. But when they write something about, say, AOC, they don't say far-left New York Congresswoman. No. It's far-right, but not far-left when it's somebody, that's a member of the squad or something like that. The other part of this is I think it takes away from the hearing. Alejandro Mayorkas is in a lot of trouble. He looks really bad, and I think this sort of thing is a distraction. And that was my 2 thoughts on that. The other thing we were watching yesterday, Ron DeSantis, he's going to go all over the place. He was in South Carolina yesterday. We'll play the soundbite in a second, Chris. But then after that, this according to the New York Times, Mr. DeSantis is going to return to the nation's capital on Friday. So tomorrow he'll be back in D.C. From there, he's going to go to Tokyo, Seoul, South Korea, Tel Aviv, and London. Chris, you're telling me he's not running for president?
I think, as I said last week, I think that's the worst kept secret in politics is Ron DeSantis is running for president. You don't hire Jeff Rowe and all of the, well, they didn't hire, the PAC did, but you don't have high-power consultants like that working on your behalf if you're not probably going to run for president, especially when you're sitting on a whole lot of money.
Yeah, Hogan, take a listen to what he said in South Carolina yesterday.
The education stuff's important to me because I know how important it is to our state. I know how important it is to our country. But it also is important to me because my wife and I have a 6, 5, and 3-year-old kids at home. So we're looking at it through the lens of parents ourselves. And we just believe that parents should be able to send their kid to school, have them watch cartoons, just be kids without having some agenda shoved down their throats all the time. So gender ideology has no place in our K through 12 school system.
Yeah, he's got some great points there. Just, he's all over the place, and he's still governor of Florida. Hogan, should he just announce now? Because, I wonder what the residents of Florida are thinking because he's everywhere but Florida.
Look, I think he wants to pass a few more things in the legislative session, which ends next month, and I think he wants to take credit for those, take some more victory laps. What you have to be careful about is when you are running for president, as Ron DeSantis clearly is making sure you don't turn your back or ignore things going on in your state at the time. There was some rampant flooding issues down in the state of Florida, and apparently he did not return to talk to folks on the ground about that. Again, you can communicate with them from far away, but it really makes you look tone deaf and not paying attention to the people and instead focusing on your own personal career. If in fact, personal political career, if in fact you don't return and take care of the people of the state that elected you.
Yeah, I don't think that's a concern yet for DeSantis, but it certainly could be. It seems like the people of Florida are pretty happy with him. Think about November, he won by 20 points.
Right.
Hogan, but I'm saying that's going to
stop.
If there are natural disasters you don't come back for and you're out politicking, that's going to make people pretty angry.
Hogan, we'll see you again after the commercial break. Chris, we'll pick this back up top of the hour. Looking forward to that.